Washington, and here to talk about some of the big issues going on is Arizona Senator Martha McSally. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. We caught you while you're here in Arizona because you were going back and forth all the time. How often are you going to Washington?
I got home last night, and that was my 28th trip across the country since January 1st.
Wow. How has it been? I mean,
it's a long commute.
How has it been for you? I mean, it's got to be overwhelming and exciting at the same time because you're doing what you are setting out to do.
It is an honor to be serving Arizona in the Senate. I mean, after being in the military 26 years, I look at all of this like it's a continuation of my service to our country, just in a different outfit. It's extremely frustrating, as you can imagine, but part of our culture as veterans is if you're yelling at the television, if you're complaining about something, you better be willing to do something about it. And that's why I stepped up, and I'm honored to be able to be there to fight for us.
Well, let's talk about some of the stuff going on. Let's start with the immigration. You know, there's a lot going on there. You spent time at the White House. You were there this week, earlier this week, and we've seen all the migrants at the border, and I know that you have plans. We want to know, what do you think should be happening to fix that problem, and what are your plans to help out?
Well, the first thing is I support in the short term immediately the emergency funding that the White House has asked for to address the current crisis at the border. We have cities like Yuma that are being overwhelmed. Individuals, because of the loopholes in our laws, are basically being released immediately into the streets, and there's just no ability for them to even have food and shelter and transportation, and the numbers keep going up. Over 100,000 were apprehended just last month, and so there's $4.5 billion that the White House asked for humanitarian assistance, the basic stuff that Border Patrol needs to include transportation and medical care. But we also need to close those loopholes so we stop incentivizing the dangerous journey, the illegal activity, provide the opportunity for people to have their cases heard if they have a legitimate asylum case. But if it's not legitimate, then they need to be sent back.
So do you have any plans personally that you are going to talk to them about to fix the problem?
Oh, absolutely.
At the border?
I worked on legislation on this in the House. We only got 191 votes for my bill, but I've spent a lot of time working on this as a border state. We now are narrowing that legislation to be just close the loopholes. Let's get Democrats and Republicans to stop these incentives so that we can strengthen the rule of law and not have people sort of abusing the system that keeps incentivizing more activity.
There's a lot going on. Real quickly, we don't have a lot of time left, but I do want to talk about Donald Trump Jr. He's being called to testify about, his connections and his meetings with Russia. How do we get past all the politics in this and make sure that our democracy isn't being infiltrated?
Well, let me first say, I took a 15-county tour my first 90 days to all the counties in Arizona, asking people what's top of mind, what are their priorities. Not once did I hear about what is going on right now in Washington, D.C. related to all the hype. The Mueller report is over. The conclusions have been made. We should all be united that we shouldn't let Russians or others try to mess with propaganda and mess with our... And if they're trying to sow discord, they're actually succeeding. So let's unite behind our democracy. Let's put this behind us and move forward for the things that matter to most people.
That's what a lot of people want to hear. Are you saying these words because it's the Republicans and the Democrats and there's this fight, and it would be nice if both sides had that same type of sentiment?
I can just tell you that my voice in the room is top of mind to most Arizonans is the cost of health care and prescription drugs and dealing with the border, job opportunities. That's what I'm focusing on.
Well, there's lots going on. You're juggling it all. You're going to and from trying to help not only the country but Arizona, and you work out every morning.
I try to.
It's
for sanity as well.
Well, you look great. And thank you so much for being here. We will be right back. Are we going to traffic?
Going on, a whole lot of headlines coming out of Washington these days between immigration, the Mueller report, and of course trade with China.
So as you can see, our Senator Martha McSally is joining us to talk and get us all caught up. You've been making many trips back and forth across the country to stay connected with the Arizonans here. We want to begin with trade just because that's happening right now. Those tariffs going into effect just at midnight. I guess, as a punitive move against China, but economists say that the hit on the American consumer is going to be very significant. We have already seen the impact on Wall Street.
Yeah, well, first I appreciate the administration taking on China. For decades, they have been cheating. They have been stealing our intellectual property, our technology. It's a national security issue for sure. But yeah, I'm a free and fair trader. We've got to make sure that we have opportunities for Americans to be able to export their goods. I just hope we can get a breakthrough really soon, because the retaliation could really be harmful to Americans and to Arizonans. And often China takes the very long view of things, and I'm just concerned about that for sure. So I'm hoping for a breakthrough. I've been engaging with the administration, making sure they understand the harm that this could have. But I appreciate them, again, taking it on, because China has been cheating for a long time, and it needs to stop.
President Trump said last night there's absolutely no hurry here, and it's really a global impact.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with just things taking their time?
No, I'm not, because again, the retaliation can be significant for consumers and small businesses in Arizona that have already felt it a little bit. The economy certainly is going strong for our deregulations and our tax cuts. But this could really have a harmful impact if there isn't a breakthrough soon. So I know they're in the middle of some pretty hot negotiations right now. I hope we can, as the pressure is cranked up, find that place that we can break through. Again, China has been cheating, and I think the world, our European partners and others we need to gang up on them to make sure that they don't continue on this path. Government-run companies and breaking in through cyber attacks and stealing our technology that actually is a national security issue, and that's a main concern of ours on the Armed Services Committee.
Okay, and of course, just the impact, though, on the American consumer.
Yes.
We will see a spike in what we're paying. We want to talk, obviously, about immigration. We're a border state. That's going to be a chief concern to you. The influx of migrants who have been detained recently has been astronomical compared to numbers in the past. Where do you see the solutions? And why there's been a lot of talk about what's going on in Yuma, a declaration of emergency there, and potentially a new facility to be built there?
Yeah, so I was at the White House this week, invited by the president and the administration to talk about this as a border state senator. We have communities like Yuma that are being overwhelmed. The numbers came out yesterday, 100,000 people apprehended at the border just in a month. The numbers keep going up. So I support the emergency funding that they've asked for humanitarian purposes, but also just to deal with Border Patrol just needs more resources. But I also support us closing these loopholes in the laws that are incentivizing the illegal activity. I had legislation on this in the House. We're working on it in the Senate. We need Democrats to stop playing politics with this. We know what we need to change in the law so we stop allowing people to basically set one foot in America. If they have a kid, they're basically going to be released nearly right away with no consequences, cutting the line for others that have been waiting for years. It's just not sustainable, and we need to pass legislation to stop it.
So are any attitudes changing in Washington? Because a lot of Democrats, some Democrats said that this was a manufactured problem. We see the video of thousands and thousands coming over the borders. Why can't both sides get together on this?
I think the American people are realizing now, I mean, this has been going on for a while, and many of us have been trying to sound the alarm bells that we really need this legislation passed. But the more pressure that they can have to stop playing games with it, we have hundreds being dropped off at a time out in the middle of nowhere to cross illegally, dropped off on the south side. And I really think that this is common sense. The Arizonans I talk to when I'm around the state say, look, fix the law, close the loopholes, secure the border. And what we talked about in the White House this week is modernizing our legal immigration system so that it is more based on our economic needs, it's more based on merit up and down the skills spectrum to support our economic growth.
One of the talking points on that was about some of the fees that would increase to apply for asylum, essentially, which is many times, I imagine, if you're seeking asylum in another country, it's because you have no means and you're not a person who can hire a lawyer or pay those fees. So.
Yeah, well, my focus has been actually raising the standard of that initial interview for the asylum. Basically, if you just say a couple words, then you are put into the asylum process. Most never show up for their court dates. We've got about 800,000 case backlog. And then less than 10% are actually having a legitimate asylum claim. So let's have a way that we can process their claims swiftly when they come, so the legitimate asylum seekers who have that case don't get drowned out in all this, and those who are making false claims can be adjudicated and then sent back if it's a false claim. That's what we really need to be doing right now to stop this flow.
The other big story, of course, is the Mueller report. And it seems like for months, years, that's all we hear about from Washington. Is anything getting done in Washington outside the Mueller report?
Well, I did a 15-county tour in my first 90 days in the Senate, talking to Arizonans all over our state. And I will tell you, this topic didn't come up once. It's not a top of mind priority for them to continue to drag this out, this divisive issue. The Mueller report is done. We should be happy that there was no collusion by any Americans. We should be concerned that we have Russians who are trying to meddle in with propaganda and other things into our democracy. We should be united to make sure it doesn't happen again, and we should move on. So Democrats seem to be in stages of grief. They still haven't gotten over the results of the 2016 election. And I think people are tired that they're continuing to drag it on even after this independent report said it's over.
On that note, though, the president exerting executive privilege or invoking about the redacted portions, your colleague Senator Sinema says the assertion of executive privilege with the Attorney General's support undermines what should be our shared goal of protecting America from foreign influence and meddling in our elections.
All I can say is the unredacted report is available to the top leaders in the House and the Senate to read. There are reasons by law for the redactions there to include grand jury information, that it's actually breaking the law to release that externally. So again, I think Americans and Arizonans want people to move on. We accept the conclusions. Let's move forward. Let's govern for the things that matter to most Arizonans. Healthcare costs, prescription drugs costs, infrastructure, the opioid crisis, support to our military. Those are the things that I'm focusing on in addition to the border issues.
Yeah, and school shootings continue to be a hot topic as well. So, well, we are out of time, so thank you for your time. We
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much. It's always nice to see you.
Always
in
great to see
States.
you.
You too.
It's a lot of miles you're clocking.
But it's always good to be home. It's always good to be home. I want to be around normal people because Washington, D.C. is
well,
not
then you
normal.
need to leave this station. Senator Martha McSally, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.